we jump forward to 2011, the answer is actually yes. I've cut out an awful lot there of the history, but if you consult the research paper in the BMJ from 20th of August 2011, it gives the results of a clinical trial which we ran, funded by the World Bank, which actually showed that the device, which comes later in the history, works very well to correct vision. And so I've done a number of, effectively, that research question, can other people correct their vision if I can do it, and how well can they do it, something I've been researching ever since. And the answer is yes. If you use the right procedure and the right device, the evidence, the clinical evidence suggests that yes, people can correct their own vision rather well. However, I've cut out an awful lot there, so I'll go back to a little bit more history. So this was lens, you know, the first really nice functioning lens. And what then happened was I made another pair of glasses, or had made for me another pair of glasses. I really have to repair this. This is the prototype. It's the only one that was ever made, actually. What it is, I'll just sort of show you. It essentially, there are glasses. You have syringes which connect into. Well, okay. You imagine you've got these lenses where you can change the amount of fluid in each lens. They're a little bit like the first lens. There's a little tap, and so you can put this on and you can adjust the amount of fluid in it, and you can so this is a variable focus. These are variable focus eyeglasses, and this interestingly, the origin of this device also quite interesting. This is the original drawing for this device. This, as you see, was made in October '93, and I had this device made up from this drawing, and I'd had one or two previous goes at making variable power glasses with fluid-filled lenses, but they were too complicated, so I've simplified it. And here's that device. Now, this device was also important in the evolution of the technology, because I come back to the original device for a moment and ask the question, you know, okay, I can correct my own vision with this thing, and one question is, if I can do it, could other people do it? And there's a long series of ongoing research, because it continues, you know, and will continue, to see how well this procedure actually works. But there's another question, there's another thought that crossed my mind, way back right then. Another question that arose in my mind was, well, how many people are there in the world that need vision correction, that need eyeglasses, and don't have them? And that question, I started to turn that question over in my mind in 1985. I'm very slow, as you can see, so I started to talk to people that knew a bit about it. I actually I ran into a chap whose name was Robert Morrison. I'm not sure that Robert is still with us. He was a rather eminent optometrist in America, and Robert had wanted to. He produced some literature in which he said that there were 1 billion people in the world that needed glasses, and I used to ask him periodically. I said, Robert, where does that number come from? You know, scientist to scientist, you're quoting a number here. How do you know the number? He would never tell me. But one day I had a chat with his son, Jim Morrison. And I said, Jim, where does your father get that 1 billion figure from? He said, he gets it from Bjorn Tillefors at the World Health Organization. So with that information, I found telephores. You see, I've switched around a little bit historically, and I hope you'll forgive me, but having found telephores, I telephoned him on the 11th of February 1994, and I said to him, I'm a physicist in Oxford, and I've been working on a technology that you can use to correct vision. I want to know how many people are there in the world that need vision correction, don't have it. And he said, it's about 1 billion. And I said, I can solve that problem, which was very cheeky. And he said to me, if you can solve that problem, you should do it. And he also said, you have to make it cheap. And I said, how much? And he said, about $1. I said, yeah, sounds doable. So, now, I had made this thing in 93. And it's interesting to actually quote what I will quote. What I wrote a note to telephores recording our conversation. And I said, I'm writing to you following our interesting conversation of the 11th of February to ask for a little help in researching statistics about the provision of eye care worldwide. As I believe I mentioned in our discussion, I'm a physicist. I've been developing ways of making adaptive lenses of good optical quality. I know from my own trials on myself, ! That I can make an adaptive lens spectacle which may be used to correct my own vision very well, and I believe it should be possible, using my technology, to manufacture such spectacles inexpensively for mass use, so that populations in the developing world could, for example, obtain useful vision correction without the expensive infrastructure which is normally associated with the eye care industry in the developed world. I'd be very grateful if you could send me any WHO information on the extent of the problem I'd like to try to address. In 94, he sent me this little booklet, which was the result of a working group that he'd run from 85 to 87. And the conclusion, printed on the back, is it's estimated the sight of a fifth of the population could be improved by the use of spectacles, including the sight of about 10% of school children. That 10% of school children figure is very interesting, bearing in mind what one of the projects I'm working on now. So the world population then was about 5 billion. So basically it was a confirmation of what he told me in the phone call, that the WHO at that time were aware that there was about 1 billion people who needed glasses to see clearly. Now, it's important to recall at that time I had about 3 different jobs in the university. I was tutor in physics at New College. I was a university lecturer. I ran my research group in atomic physics, quite a well-known small research group researching quantum electrodynamics and relativistic quantum mechanics in highly charged atomic ions, which had nothing to do with this at all. So I had all these things to do, so I didn't spend that much time on this. But in 1996, the occasion, I had occasion to go to Geneva. So I went to, my secretary called telephores and said, Silver's coming to Geneva. It was about 31st of January 96, and to my surprise he said, oh, send him round. So I went round to see telephores, Beyond Telephores, Dr. Beyond Telephores, who was incidentally the director of the World Programme for the Prevention of Blindness. And I took these glasses with him, and they're not functioning now, they need to be filled and resuscitated, but I took them with me, they were working. He put them on. I said, put them on, tried them. He needs vision correction. He tried them, and he said they work.